in this lecture we start the topic of scattering. So the basic idea of scattering is very simple, and it is everywhere, like everything you observe or see is basically scattering. And the idea is to disturb a system with a little bit with an external probe. Why is little bit? Because if you disturb it too much, it can change the character of the system altogether. So in that sense I am saying little bit. You will understand, I mean, when in science, of course, when you say words like little bit, you need to give a precise quantitative meaning of that, and you will understand it in great detail in later when you learn linear response theory. But for now, just take the qualitative word little bit. So the basic idea is to disturb the system a little bit with an external probe and see the response of the system. And that is what we do in any experiment. For example, if you want to understand the object, what you will do, first thing you will do is see the object. So what is the process of seeing an object? You turn on the light source emits photon, if you want to think classically, emits electromagnetic wave. The electromagnetic wave falls on the object scatters that, it enters your detector, which is your eye, and you see the object. Similar way you listen or do anything is that same process, and to depending on what character, what aspect of the system you are trying to understand, you have to use different kind of probes. For example, if you want to understand a system which is a relevant scale of the system is in the electromagnetic, among the electromagnetic wave, it's in optical range or radio wave range or like some X-ray range. Depending on that, you send that kind of probe. Or it's a sound wave if you want to know some other aspect of that object, like whether it's a, let's say you have a colored object, you don't know that white colored object or whatever is a metal or something else. So you want to probe the sound, maybe you want to heat it and listen the sound. So different aspect depending on different aspect, you send different probe. Now if you want to know if it's a spin system and spin properties, you send a neutron, you do a neutron scattering, you send a probe which is a spinful particle without charge and all that. So you know about all these details. And for example, one simple example I can think of immediately is, there is a sunglass sitting on my desk. The sunglass is partially reflective, partially transmittive, okay, because it's a black colored glass which has, if I probe, if I shine light on it, part of it passes through, part of it gets reflected. So it has a reflection and transmission, and that tells you a lot of things you can tell about the sunglass by studying that. For example, if the sunglass is UV, has this UV coating, it will not let the UV light pass to the other side. So from there you can see, by studying the spectrum of the reflected and transmitted light, transmitted will be 100% UV will be reflected and 0% will be transmitted. You can say that. If it is Polaroid, by studying the polarization of the transmitted and reflected light, you can say whether a lot of things about it. If the sunglass is blue in color or black in color or yellow in color, depending, looking at the reflected and polarized and the transmitted light, again you can say that. So that is the kind of information you can obtain from a scattering. So the very act of looking at things is scattering, and all the experiment you know in high energy or condensed matter physics are essentially scattering. Like for example, if you want to probe what is inside a nucleus, so then you have to scatter it with another nucleus with similar mass or at least similar energy. Like if you want to probe what is inside a cricket ball, you cannot scatter it with by hitting it very hard with a ping pong ball. I mean, you might be able to, then the ping pong ball have to be almost like ridiculously fast. So instead you hit it with another cricket ball. So see, that is basically what happens in LHC in CERN. It's essentially a scattering experiment where you take the particles at such velocities such that you can study what is inside that, if anything at all. Like if you hit the cricket ball with a low energy, another cricket ball, not so fast, you won't know much. If you hit it very hard, so let's say you want to know what is there inside a cricket ball. A cricket ball has a layer of leather, then there is a layer of thread, then there is layer of something else, I don't remember what, some filler, and at the center there is a cork. The ball is made of cork, that's why it's called corked ball. So if you hit it extremely hard with another cricket ball, the ball will scatter, it will break into pieces. Then by studying that scattered pieces, you can say what is there inside. Similarly, also in many other day-to-day things like resistivity in a copper wire is also an essentially scattering phenomena, because the electron passes through the wire, it sees some potential, some part of it is reflected, some part of it is transmitted, and that is causing like some hindrance on the path of the electrons, and this phenomena shows up as a resistance of the wire, and so on. There are many such examples. So basically it's an extremely, basically what I wanted to convey you, it's an extremely important chapter, and everything you know or do, or all the way you interact with the physical world is essentially scattering. Okay, so we will learn how to deal with that within the framework of quantum mechanics. So here is an example which is and one more thing to notice, that what I am going to do in this scattering chapter, especially the part which I am doing now, that is this 1D scattering, everything you already know. So the problem is basically a particle in 1D scattering, a particle is interacting with a 1D potential. So you have done all the aspects of this in quantum mechanics 1. So here what we will do is basically revisit that problem and see that same thing from a slightly different using a slightly different machinery, all these S matrix. And there is also another alternative machinery called T matrix, which we will not go at. And we'll say that there is it's a very neat formalism to extract all the information which you have already studied from there. So scattering can be of many types. It could be a particle interacting. For example, a particle is going and it is facing some local potential, and then we want to know what happened in that region. Like, so that is the kind of thing you will study in this course. So this course, Quantum Mechanics 2 course, is all about single particle problems. So the problem mainly you will study, I mean mostly single particle problem, because we need many particles, and mostly what we will do is single particle scattering, in which a particle is going through, there is only one particle in the system, the particle is thrown into some region and the region has some potential, and you want to ask, you want to know that what are the possibilities in that due to that potential, is reflected, transmitted and all that. And you can imagine if that happens in 3D it's a very interesting question, because depending on at what angle, at what moment of you threw the particle, reflection, transmission will depend on that. In 1D it's much simpler, and we will do that fast, and we have already done this in another form before, so that is why I am starting with that. And then I will do the same thing using this S matrix formalism, and then we will go to 3D. We will not go to 2D, because 2D is kind of special and there are some weird thing happens in 2D, and that is why I will not, it is not the scope of, within the scope of this course. And one more interesting thing is particle-particle scattering. When a particle is scattered with another particle, like one billiard ball is scattered by another billiard ball, and then that is a very interesting problem. If we get time, we will do that in this course, but I am not sure about that. And in that case, it matters whether this is fermionic or bosonic, of course, as you can imagine. If a fermion is scattered by a boson, or a boson is scattered by a boson, or fermion is scattered by a fermion, their statistics will matter. Whenever two particles are concerned, then their statistics comes into picture. So all these interesting details are there, but we will do the simplistic approach of a single particle interacting with a potential. With that goal, let's recap certain things which we learned in great detail in last semester. So let's say a particle is coming from left or right, the incident particle, and there is a scattering region. or in other words there is a potential which is confined in a finite region in space. And we have seen these solutions that if depending on the energy, that classically we know that if the particle is of energy of this much energy, which is lower than this hill and all, then this region 3 is classically forbidden. Region 2 is also, the particle will not be able to penetrate on this side, and 1 is only classically allowed. And that is not the case we know in quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics has all these tunneling phenomena. The particle can go everywhere with certain probability depending on the details of the problem. So we saw the examples of this. So let's say you have these 3 pieces of wire with certain potential given to them, and depending on their distance on that, so you can draw this potential landscape on this 1D. So this is a picture for this a potential scenario where these two sides are. So this a 3 piece of wire, this has a bias of E phi, this is 0 potential, and classically you know this is the forbidden and allowed region. And the flip problem of that, where these two sides are 0, this side is up, and we have done all these things and studied in great detail in first semester. So these are the character of problems. We will be interested in these scattering problems under this scattering chapter of this course. And as you can imagine that in some form you know what to do and how to solve this problem. So what we will learn is not a new physics essentially. I mean some new phenomena you will see, but this is essentially the physics we already know and we are capable of doing that. But we will learn new machinery or techniques to deal with that in a more sophisticated way. Okay, so now let's look at a generic problem where I have a 1D system with a potential which is localized in space, some arbitrary potential, some arbitrary shape, and localized means the Vx is 0 at infinity, x going to infinity. That means the potential has no finite part at very far or x going to infinity region. Or in other words, we want the potential to fall off significantly fast, suitably fast. So what does it mean by suitably fast when you go from x to far? That will go later in somewhat details of that, but you know from the WKB chapter that what one means by a fast varying potential and slow varying potential. It means the derivative is fast, and how fast is fast enough, all these questions will come, but right now we will do the formalism without caring about that. We will just say it's a potential which is localized in a finite region. So for a safe approximation, just assume it absolutely dies after a certain x. The potential is 0 after a certain x. So this is the Schrodinger equation for this problem, the equation 1, and the solution we know is of this form. The dynamical solution is of this form. This is the static Schrodinger equation, this is the dynamical solution, and we know there are two types of solution. One is a bound state which is of this form, another is and this bound state has a energy. So this bound state is a solution at very far from the origin where the B is kind of 0, almost 0, and in that case the solution, you can immediately see that the solution will be to the power minus lambda s where E is less than 0. So if that happens, now we know that E less than 0 cannot happen. So the particle that is trapped within the potential, and that tells you this cannot go to infinity actually. So that is effectively telling you this cannot escape. Or in other words, so you might wonder that, oh, if the B is, so B is never actually truly 0, even in some, unless it is some fully trapped particle. In that case, you can say this solution. So the actual statement is the solution E less than 0 corresponds to the property. It corresponds to the state which falls off e to the power minus lambda x. So that's the correct statement. And then you can say these solutions are of two type. It could be either e to the power lambda x and e to the power minus lambda x, and they are unphysical for one case or the other, because e to the power lambda x diverges at x going to 0, e to the power minus lambda diverges at x going to x less than 0. And we discussed this in the last semester, that we will take this suitably this a or b to be 0 or non-zero depending on which part of the solution is unphysical. Also note that we want the state to be normalized, and for that this ix must go to 0, and that is why the reason we make this one part or the other part 0 to make this solution correspond with the physical problem. And also notice that if e is less than 0, then it is usually true for very specific values, and usually it is for very specific lambdas it can satisfy this. And we know from there that the spectrum will be discrete or quantum when you have this kind of a bound state solution. Bound state solution in these are so this lambda exponential form is for asymptotic region, but in this bound state solution is for some small region where the potential has some significant value. Okay, now then there is another thing we learned is the scattering state, which can have this harmonic form, and we learned that we spend a lot of time discussing that why they are not normalizable and all that. And they are, of course, you have to extend the Hilbert space to include them in the definition, and they will have this dynamical form which is I xt to the power plus minus ikx minus iet by h bar. Energy for them will be this when the b is equal to 0, h cut square k square, and since e is and when e greater than 0 there is no quantization, and for all k the solution is valid. Now we can use this simple classification. This is also something we have already discussed, to discuss a problem like that, to see that how tunneling comes from the simple properties of this wave function, is to see that this, if I have a potential of this form which has a peak on two sides and almost 0 at the middle, so you will see in the middle region for e greater than 0 you expect a localized solution, and in other case what if e greater than 0, so there will be a solution here and here, and in this region you will see a solution of, just a moment, yeah, here you will think that you can find a localized solution which is trapped between these two peaks with e greater than 0, but you want this to be normalizable also, this one wave function to be normalizable for this whole problem. So for that the e has to be less than 0, and then the physical reason to find this, that this bound state is not a truly bound state and it can escape to infinity, and that is through the tunneling. So this is something you have already learned, how this tunneling appears, and we will see the exact meaning of this, exact form of this in terms of our S matrix formalism. Okay, so now let's go over this reflection and transmission, which is something again we already know. So mathematically we know that the Schrodinger equation is a second order differential equation, so there will be two independent solutions for each k, and that can be physically thought of whether you throw the particle from left or right. So essentially, so you are throwing a particle in towards a potential and you want to see what's the reflection and transmission. Depending on left or right it will be plus minus k, and here is a pictorial representation of that problem. Let's say you are throwing this problem from the left side, throwing the particle from the left side, its transmitted part is this and reflected part is this. So you write this right side wave function as the part, sorry, I am throwing the particle from the right side and you want to ask what is the reflected part and transmitted part. So in the right side you will have the incident wave plus the reflected wave, which is this side, and left side you will have the transmitted wave. So the R and T are the transmission reflection factor, and they could be some complex number, and we learned how to calculate those things. And as you can, just to recall, you already know this, so when you are writing all these solutions, it means all these things are happening at the same time. The particle is like a wave, so that's why everything is happening at the same time. The particle is reflected and transmitted and all that, and then it becomes a matter of probability and collapse of wave function and all that when you observe. Also note that scattering is a dynamical phenomena, of course. So it's a time dependent process, so the particle goes in, coming out and reflected and all that. But then in this form of our this plane wave solutions, so note that these solutions are for far from the potential. So in this whole chapter we will be mostly concerned with what is happening far from the potential, because we will observe a phenomena. Normally in a scattering experiment you observe the phenomena far from the object, like in a collider experiment, for example, there is a region where these particles collide, but observation, then they fly away at different direction, and then you observe it far away from where it happened. Similarly, in a simpler experiment for X-ray diffraction, or even like when you look at an object, the photon comes from the light source to your object, interacts there, then scattered off, and then you see the object which is far away. You are sitting far away from the object. So you are mostly interested at the asymptotic limit of what happens. So and the asymptotic limits, there is no potential because the potential is localized. So the asymptotic limit is a plane wave only, and this plane wave, how will they affect, what part of that will be affected, that is what we will see. We know that already, but we will revisit that again. So even though it's a dynamical problem, that's why we can write it as the answer can be written in this form, which is spread plane wave, which is spread out throughout the space, and it is, one can think this plane wave as a beam of particle. So the answer is like a steady state solution in the presence of the potential. Okay, so this probability for reflection R and transmission T are, so we know that we write down this as this R and T coefficient and square them for the reflection and transmission probability. And in general, R and T are all dependent on K, and there will be also other quantities of interest that we'll calculate and see. So let's say, what do you know about R and T from quantum mechanics? We did this in earlier semester. We compute this current, which is Jx minus I h bar by 2m, that is equal to minus I h bar by 2m psi star d psi dx minus psi d psi star dx. And probability conservation tells you that the dj dx must be equal to 0. Then we did all this calculation from this wave function in the reflected part and transmitted part earlier, and we found that this jx is of the form h bar k 1 minus r square, and at x going to minus infinity, which is the reflected side and the right side, and the transmitted side is h bar k by m t square. And we know that this 1 minus r square plus t square must be equal to 1, and that is also clear from this conservation of jx and from this formula, and that's because the reflected and transmitted together will be 1, because the wave is either reflected or transmitted, there is no other option. That's basically r plus t equal to 1. This is just a sanity check. You can it looks like a round argument, but it is basically a sanity check of what it should be, the conservation law. Now similarly, we can do the same, play the same game by doing a scattering from the right side. So throw the particle from the right side, and then it will be I can write the left side as the t prime, which is this transmitted part, and the right side as r prime e to the minus ips plus r prime. I am just using the prime notation for left when you throw the particle from left side, versus the non-prime notation is when you throw the particle from the right side. So now we want to find the relation between this left and right side, these two ways of doing things. Now since Vx is a real function, we know that if psi r is a solution, psi star r also has to be a solution, a valid solution. And similarly, this psi r star minus r star psi r should also be a valid solution. So now this, and that means it is this object, and it comes from the linearity property of these solutions. So that means this object psi r minus r star psi star, which is 1 minus r square to the minus ikx, as s going to minus infinity, and I am just adding these two part with the r factor, and t star e to the power minus ikx minus r star t e to the power ikx. This guy is also a legal solution, should be a solution of the form. Now if you notice, this takes exactly the same functional form. If I divide it by t star, the same functional form as psi r. If we divide it by t star, not psi r, sorry, it will take the same functional form as psi l if I divide it by t star, and that is perfectly fine to do because we know these scattering states don't normalize again. That is why I can divide it by some arbitrary factor. So using r square and t square, it tells you, so when you do this divided by t square, you take it, becomes the same form and gives us a relation between this t star, t prime and t, and r prime and r, and this relation is given by this. So that tells you that the transmission amplitudes are equal, are same, whether you throw it from left or right, and the reflection amplitude only differs by a phase. So that is a little unusual result which you don't expect from it, because notice in this whole thing we didn't give any details about the particle or the nature of the potential or anything, and we landed on the conclusion that if we throw it from the left side or right side, the transmission amplitude will be same and reflection amplitude will also be same with the phase difference, and that is not something you expect in a classical scattering problem, because if you have a potential hill, whether you throw it from left or right, it depends on the shape of the potential. What will happen depends on the shape of the potential. We will see further on this, what does it mean and what does it imply. So the reflection probability is same, and as I said, that the probability will be same, but then there will be a phase factor, and how that phase factor plays an important role, that is what we will learn. Okay, so now let's look at an example for this. So let's say I have this potential Vx, which is of this form, the kind of problem you have done in previous semester. It's a pothole, like it's like a minus V0 dip on the and it's 0 elsewhere. Outside the potential it will be like plane wave solution. Inside the potential you can take the unsaturated solution to be of this form, and we have solved this problem and we found this relation between these two by matching boundary condition to be q square equal to 2m v0 by h cut square plus k square. Again we can find the reflection and transmission coefficient r prime and t. So for that we patch the solution for psi and d psi dx and solve for ABRT. So when we do that, these are the two equations we get, and by matching derivative, like these two equations are coming from matching wave function. Similarly for matching derivative there will be another two equations which I am not writing down, and from there we can solve the r and t, solve it for the r and t, and they are these two cumbersome equations. There is a bit of algebra, actually quite a bit of algebra, which I am not showing here. Now how do you know this algebra is correct? So do some sanity check. So do take the limit k going to 0. That means you have thrown the particle very slowly. It's like a soft scattering. These are called soft scattering actually, when this low energy scattering. So when you throw this very slowly, you expect it will be fully reflected, it will not go to the other side, not transmitted, and that is indeed what happens. It's fully reflected. And similarly when you throw it very fast, like k going to infinite moment, it will be entirely pass through. So then r goes to 0 and t goes to 1. So it will not even see the potential, and that is also you can visualize it from the point of view of a de Broglie wavelength. So k going to infinity means the wavelength is very small, and if k going to 0 means then the particle has a very large wavelength. So you can think how this wave will interact with the potential. Okay, now there is one more special case which we have also discussed earlier, that if in this mathematical solution, what happens when this qa is equal to n pi. So in that case the R goes to 0. So in this R goes to 0 in this, if this QA is equal to n pi, because it's a sign here, and that means there will be no reflection, it will be entirely transmission. So there are some special momentum where the wave completely misses the potential, it just doesn't see the potential, and it's a very special quantum mechanical phenomena, and that's the artifact of the wave nature and the scattering and interference. Okay, now and obviously it happens only this for this particular momentum, so the momentum kind of needs to be found fine-tuned for that. Okay, so now, and sorry, one more thing I missed. So this happens only for certain Q's, not K's. So Q's are not actually the incident potential, so but they are related to the K. So I said you have to throw it at a particular potential by Q. No, it is actually you have to throw it at a particular, sorry, at a particular momentum by K, and that K is related to that Q by this formula. Okay, this is something we already discussed, so you can construct this whole argument again from what we learned earlier. And again, since this particular potential is symmetric, parity symmetric, x is equal to minus x, so you expect the R will be exactly equal to R prime. Yeah. So now you will see that how will I exploit this symmetry of this problem. So this is now, so now we learn this, revise the old solution we already did. Now we want to do something more where this solution gets easier, and we'll learn some technology for doing that. So this technology is called S matrix formalism. So it's a compact formalism to package all this information, and